Okay. I thought we'd bring, I thought maybe you'd try to bring Moses in.
I've been meditating on that.
Okay, good.
I got really, really calm, and Erik didn't come until Skype went off.
Okay.
Giving me my space. Normally he shows up, like, as soon as I get to the office. He's like, hey, today we got work. And I'm like, nothing. It's so quiet. So we're going to do this? All right.
I read up on Moses because I just don't know anything about, so it helped me to bring on some questions, and the only thing I watched is that Disney show about Moses, and that's about it.
There's a Disney show about Moses?
Yeah, a little cartoon that I watched with the kids. I don't even remember the name of it, but go fetch, boy. Fetch Moses for us.
He's fetching. I wonder, is he going to show up, like, with the staff and the whole...
I don't know.
That's how I imagine, Moses, he has the thing, right?
I know. And the 10 Commandments. The 2 rocks.
Oh, he did the 10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments.
That's pretty bad that I
don't really know
any religion.
I don't know anything. I mean, I was raised by 2 atheists, so I really don't have much of a knowledge of religion. I know people will find that just horrible, but I did read that Moses really was mentioned and, I don't know, revered, but, studied by 3 religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. So, he covered all the bases.
We're a go.
We're a go. Good. Hello, Moses.
Erik, Jamie, don't freak out. He says hi. Okay. Hello. Sorry, he says hello.
Okay. What does he look like?
Erik's talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
Almost same height as Erik.
Really?
He's not thin like Erik is. He's got a fullness to his belly. He does have facial hair, but the hair on top of his head is... He's not bald, but it's thin.
Okay.
Like he has a longer forehead, so maybe a receding hairline and kind of thin.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Moses, did your mother what happened with your mother? I mean, I understand that she wanted to give you away to
save me.
To save you, so that because I know they were killing all the Hebrew boys because there was a fear that they would. Well, tell me your story basically about your birth and about what your mother did.
He said, being so young, he was merely an infant, so he does not recall the struggles his mother went through. This was only a discovery to him after he had passed away. He was not given the opportunity to understand what his mother was going through. Yet he was given opportunities to help bind beliefs together and make a brotherhood within... I'm so sorry, can you tell me again? He has a deep voice. It's not rumbly or anything, it's just a deep tone. He talks on a slower note. He's not a fast talker. But his pronunciation of some of the words are very, like with an accent, it's kind of I want to say softer, rounder sounds, but I don't know if that makes sense.
Sure.
That. But he said he had the opportunity to bring a brotherhood throughout the whole city, and that it was his call from God to bring, he puts his arms out, to bring that brotherhood to all who were alive on earth. He said, I had felt that most of my life was not driven by my personal needs, but it was driven by the needs of the people around me. He said, I gave myself willingly. I do believe some men are made to be leaders. Some men are made to be voices. Some men are made to be workers.
And you were the voice.
That's what he said. Okay. He doesn't consider himself a leader. Erik said, but so many people followed you. He said, yes, but it was by their own will. He said, I did not encourage them to walk behind me. Erik kind of gives this pleasing nod, like well said. Well played.
Well played, sir.
Yeah.
Did you, were you adopted by an Egyptian royal family then?
He said, yes, he was.
Okay. And from what I understand, you fled across the Red Sea. And was that whole thing about the burning bush, was that correct, or was that just a myth?
Erik goes, yeah, my mom's talking pretty literal, so please respond to her that way. Metaphorically, the burning bush, it was not from fire, as you would think of a fire for a camp.
I was a Girl Scout. I can't help it.
It was a bush of light.
Oh.
Light coming from it. Where it was bright enough to be its own source of energy, like fire. Though it did not. Erik asked him, did it spontaneously combust?
Oh, gosh.
He said no. No, it was the light of God that lit the bush. It was the vision he had when God spoke to him and gave him direction of what to do. Quiet.
Okay. And that was for him to ask for the release of of his people, of the Israelites, or was it something else?
He said it was insight to help release the people. He's telling me that because of how he was placed, how he was revered by the people around him, he had this desire to create an equality, but he never found himself begging or asking for answers. He said, I truly felt as if God understood my needs and would answer me before the need of me to ask. He's explaining it as if because it was done this way, that it was what God had intended to do for all his people. All the he touches his heart. He does not have a staff. Like I was thinking about before. I'm so sorry. Yes. All the times that God spoke to him, he never distinguished between society. He never distinguished between knowledge of people, and he never distinguished between the belief of the people. He always spoke in terms of save everyone who was involved.
Mm.
He's telling me that he has made mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
In human rage and anger and misunderstanding. He himself stooped so low to battle, to battle as a human, and had many people killed.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
He said it was a burden upon him and a lesson to understand who was he going to be, the voice or the human. He made a great sacrifice when he discovered that he himself had a connection to God like no other person he came across, no other person that he found. He says, many times I had a sense of alienation because of the understanding I had about life, the understanding I had about death that I could not verbalize. This confusion and angst that I had within inside me is what encouraged God to help me become the lawmaker, to write the commandments, to give us a platform that all humans could read and understand.
And follow, probably.
He said it was never written that these must be followed to the degree that they were written to be allowed sanctity for your soul, peace for your soul with God.
What do you mean?
They were written as guidelines so that you may understand the nature of being human.
Is that why you had to experience this burden, this human rage, in order to become who the voice that you became?
Yes.
Okay. And what were you about to say?
He said there's a beauty about being human. Once you understand its capability of being free. For so long, there were so many humans who had eyes for war, petition, individuality, separatism. I don't know if that's a word.
Yes. Yes.
This is why I believe I was allowed to be born and to come forward.
Okay. Now, the 10 plagues, what was that all about? Was that by the hand of God?
Erik leans over, he puts his hand on Moses' shoulder and says, remember, my mom is literal, so just talk to her.
Well, I'm just getting this out of Wikipedia, so what can I do?
Ah, Wikipedia.
Yeah, so it's literal.
That's good. Okay. Not all of them were by the hand of God.
Okay.
Sorry, he just gave me a whole bunch of information, so we're going to sift through this. He's saying that some of it was weather patterns, some of it was Earth's natural doings. But in general, most people believe God is in control of that as well. But that learning came from that there was no explanation for weather patterns. Why the Earth's atmosphere was adjusting or doing what it was. So this is why we have that innate understanding that God also has control over that. He says Mother Earth has her own soul and identity of herself. Though God does encourage her, he calls her female, God does encourage her to be healthy. He does not encourage her to bid his doings. Neither does he do that with any human being. It is only out of willingness is it ever done.
Okay.
So some of those were Mother Earth, and some of those were, he said, signs from God.
And what was the purpose of those signs?
To remind people that there is a greater energy, to remind people that they are human. And it was not done out of fear base to scare them into being small. It was done out of reminding them of their position, showing them that indeed there is something more.
And go ahead.
So Erik just leaned over and asked him, he says, so did you really live that long?
Yeah, what was that all about? I heard that he lived to be, that he wandered around for 40 years. And first of all, I want to know why he did that, and that he lived to be 120.
120? Earth years? Because didn't people back then, wasn't there a life expectancy? Like,
I thought so, like in the 30s or something.
So, like, Erik said, so, like, did you outlive 4 or 5 generations?
Yeah. So why did you wander around that long, and did you really live that long?
He's saying that the documentation of time about his life was exaggerated.
Okay.
He did live to be a much older person. Erik asked him again about generations. He said, I outlived 3 generations. So average age was 30. That puts him in his 90s. Erik says, what do you contribute that to? He said, the light of God.
Oh.
Erik said, so is that energy healing? Is, what would you call that today? He says, today, he said, I would call that prayer, affirmation, energy healing, the connection to the energy source that we're made from.
And why did you wander around for 40 years?
He said it was for many reasons. He's giving us 3 reasons. One is that he found when he was on his own, to his own accord, to his own likes and dislikes, he was able to communicate clearer to God, which was his ultimate desire to be connected. That if he settled down in a culture or in an area, that he began to adapt what was around him, and it narrowed his understanding of who he was.
Okay. All right, so you led your people out of Egypt across the Red Sea. Did you really part the Red Sea and lead them to Mount Sinai, where they were later based?
He wants you to correct. He says, please do not call them my people.
Oh, sorry. My bad. What would you like me to say?
He said you can say anything but that. He says, I don't claim them to be mine.
Okay.
I am a part of what they believe in.
Mm.
I believe what they believe in. We were together. I was neither greater nor less than. So he has a very humbled sense to him.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
He was talking about the parting of the seas.
Mm-hmm.
Erik said, he goes, explain it. It's kind of cool, actually. Erik says, explain it how you experienced it when you were there.
Yeah.
What was the situation like? He's comparing it to extreme tides, and that they're so what do you call that? Like a partial sandbar, partial sandbar, right? Higher levels of the sea area.
Yeah.
But he said that this was not. God, I can hear him so clear in my head, and then when I try to open my mouth to kind of say what he's saying, it lays so flat. Because I can see it in my head. I can see that some of it is a tide thing. But what surprises me is tides go into the coastline and they go out.
Yeah.
What I see is like a separation, kind of like between a bay and an ocean.
Right, right.
Sometimes on the tide, when it's low, they both pull back.
Oh, I see.
So I don't know the location of where they're standing, like geographically, but I wonder. Anyways.
Well, I can see it.
That's a possibility. So there is some high sand parts, but then he says that yes, that the waters did pull away, so that they could by foot walk on land to safety, and behind them, the water rushed forward to protect them, as if Mother Earth and God both had agreed willingly that this is how they were going to protect these lives.
And was that a contractual agreement between Mother Earth and God?
He said yes.
And did the soldiers that followed them or were chasing them, just like on The Prince of Egypt by Disney, did they get killed?
His response was, I know many of them got wet.
Ah, okay.
And actually kind of smiles. But yet many of them did not survive the crossing as we did.
Yeah. Okay.
And what he was explaining is centuries ago, when there were less human beings, there was a more innocent way of believing in nature's powers and magic and believing in God's will. And he said, not that he's saying that this is good nor bad, but in older times on the earth, there was less energy competing. Oh. There was less growth, less industry. And that God had many ways of showing the interactions. Higher source, God, had many ways of interacting with the people on earth to help. Whereas now, God is more removed from working with the earth and helping, and more involved as looking at the earth as a whole. And that is because of the mass knowledge, the mass growth that is happening on today's earth. The energy is very different now than it was then.
Yeah.
Miracles still do happen now. But because we feel more smart, more scientific, more logical, we tend to not want to believe in them and identify them as a mystery, or write them off as this must be something different or something else. This is not what we can identify as a miraculous, religious or belief healing.
Science gets in the way.
Or interaction, yes.
Yeah.
Is going to come back around, he said.
Oh, good. All right. When?
Yeah, Erik goes, does that mean a bunch of us are going to die and we're going to get real simple again? He said, no, I'm saying that science and religion and belief is going to come back around to be simple and easy again. We got
nice.
too far away from our own understanding and put too much investments in logical understanding.
Yes.
You asked when. Touche, right? Okay, so several things came up. If you ask when, then you're thinking time is linear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. If you're asking when, you're looking for a defined answer when really it's based upon the consciousness of the people on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Their increased level of consciousness is what we're depending on to be able to reach that level where science and religion, belief, and spirituality come together, and people can set aside now that lack of mystery and understand that the answers are completely within their own temple, their own body.
Okay. Now, can I ask another question, or is he still talking?
He was talking, but I don't know what it was about, and then I kind of got involved in watching what he was wearing.
Always interested in fashion, aren't you, Jamie?
I know. I want to know, why do they appear the way they do?
Yeah.
Is it just because that's how we've sketched them in our heads?
Yeah.
Or, I asked him, I go, is this really what you wore?
Well, it is Friday, so he's probably casual Friday today. Just like Jesus was.
No. Yeah, he's more in a, I guess you call it a robe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to call it a dress or a skirt, but it's not pants.
Okay.
And it's not long to the ground or anything.
Okay.
I see his calves.
Okay.
We've come a long way. I don't know why I'm giggling so much. Erik, stop.
What's he doing now?
He's in a dress.
Oh, well, it's okay. He can back up a dress, can he?
He wears it well. Old school.
There we go. Now, Moses, what do you think about Judaism, the practice of Judaism today, and the Jewish faith?
He says that it is still very beautiful. Though it has grown to lack the embracing of its foundation. Erik quickly was asking, what do you mean about that? He said when he was alive, he watched the religions divide. Mm-hmm. The Catholic, Jewish,
Islam, maybe?
Muslim, is that the same thing?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before it had divided, there was more of a sense of understanding the same roles of the same characters. And now he says what disappoints him is that too much pride has gotten in the way. Pride of their own words, pride of their definition of how and why it was written this way. And he says that for all the three religions he's talking about, not just one. And that's the sadness that he has now about it. Because if the pride was removed, and if we could look broadly at all three, he's only talking about the three, about all three of the religions, we could see why they each came about and why the terms fit us so well. I don't understand. The terms, explain the terms, please. The turns is what he describes of why they became divided. Each culture needed a different type of value to support where they were taking their society. And he said religion and belief should not be driven by culture or society. It needs to be driven by the emotional understanding of the human nature, not location of where they are on earth and why.
And the collective ego, this is my religion, you have to believe in what we think. Is it that sort of thing?
Yes. He reaches up, he grabs, and just pulls down his whole beard. He said, yes, that's what he's speaking of, the pride.
Yeah.
The ego that fights against what once was a part of what they believe in today. Well,
I understand that, Moses, that you were mentioned in all the, of course, in all the, the religious teachings and documentation of those three religions. So there was so much crossover earlier in those three religions, and you're right, the division just came slowly over time, and so many wars were fought in the name of that division. It's a shame.
He looked at Erik and he says, your mother is right. It's a deep shame. And now we are all looking to mend belief in God as being one.
Yeah.
A unity again.
I hope so. What do you think about the state of the Middle East conflict now? What should be done?
He gets very sad when you talk about it. He said it used to be God's bed. The land, the location. He's saying that the area, the location, the land, used to be God's bed.
Oh, how sweet.
It is a very sweet image. It's very nice. And he says now it's being torn by just a handful of people. He said the world's understanding of what this place is going through is only driven by a handful of people. And the masses are being ignored.
Yeah.
This is what upsets him so much, is he is a man for the people. He fights for community. He fights for survival of community, and says that he will stay in that area in God's bed and continue to fight for the masses who are not heard, who are being driven by the people who have little to no consideration for the value of their country's life, each individual life. It's his hopes that there will be no more war. There are many spirits and beings who have passed on, beings from other places who are coming forth and trying quickly to can you use another word? Calm. Thank you. I know that word. to calm the disruption there so that nothing occurs to damage other people's lives, the safety of other people, innocent people. There's more innocent lives involved than there are corrupt.
Yeah. Is there anything else that humans can do? Or should do?
Yeah, that's kind of what Erik was throwing in. And he said, it's the belief, changing the belief that the innocent have no strength is what the humans need to do. Changing the belief that the commoner has no strength to make a change is what needs to be shifted. Mm. Every person has equivalent strength, value, and voice. Yeah. And it should be used. But many people choose to pretend to feel safe by not speaking up. Yeah. Erik asked him, he said, well, he goes, I hope you'll be pleased that we're not playing it safe because we're choosing to bring you in to speak. And my heart is like racing for some reason.
Is it getting too close, his energy?
No, it's partly why I'm in a different room because I have
more space, yeah.
He's far. He's probably about 12 feet away from me.
Oh, good, good.
So Erik is pretty much asking what we're doing. Is that an approval? And he's speaking to Erik. He's telling Erik that if he didn't believe in the value of communication, that he would not have come today.
Okay. Now, do you have any other messages or advice for us? You okay, Jamie?
Yeah, I was just taking a deep breath.
Okay.
Erik goes, breathe.
Well, that's always a good idea. When in doubt, breathe.
Yeah, I think I was forgetting to do that for a second.
Need to take a moment?
No, Erik was restating the question. He says that what he would like to leave behind, what words he would like for people to linger on, is when accepting, is that any story? When accepting any story, when believing within any story, please do not accept it from the source it came from. Mm-hmm. Please do not choose to accept it from the one person's mouth. He says, I'm not asking you to be distrustful. Mm-hmm. I'm asking you to find the root of where what you believe in comes from. If you understand the root, then you'll understand how the tree grows. Oh, he just stopped. That was it. I thought there was more. It's like, you know how someone, when they're talking but they're over, but it looks like their head is still talking?
Oh, yeah.
Create that pause.
Exactly.
That's what if you understand the roots, then you'll understand how the tree grows. So don't just accept that the tree is beautiful and you like the tree, because the roots could be completely rotten.
Oh, yeah. So really, you see, you really want to listen not just with your eyes and your ears. You want to listen, like Bob Marley said, with your heart. Right? Is that what you're sort of saying?
He said yes.
Okay, good.
Erik quickly leaned over, put his hand on his shoulder again, and goes, do you know Bob Marley?
Oh, no. And does he?
He said yes.
Oh, of course, that's good. Anything else you want to say, Moses, before we... Oh, yeah, I want to ask you one question. What do you think about Kabbalah?
pause that long. He just started talking, and I lost track. He's saying that the Kabbalah system of belief supports the spirituality of the soul. It does so in a more gentle and challenging way than other spiritual beliefs do. He said, I'm not one to judge how people find their own path.
Yeah.
He says, I'm one who encourages them to find it in every place they look. The quality that he enjoys the most about the Kabbalah is the peacefulness, how it constantly looks back at the soul of the being rather than the external beliefs that need to occur for them to achieve enlightenment.
Oh, how interesting. I don't know anything about it. I just know it's a sort of an more ancient mysticism based in Judaism, and I'm with ties to Judaism, but otherwise I just don't know anything about it. Erik, do you have any more questions from Mr. Moses?
His hand is still on the shoulder. He goes, no, I'm full. Kind of taps his throat like he's had enough.
Done.
He's shaking hands.
Okay.
Kind of cordial, and then hugs.
Aww. Hugging Moses. That's sweet.
And he's telling him, thank you so much for coming today and taking the time to be with us.
Thank you, Moses. It was an honor.
Is mumbling something to Erik. He turns to me. He nods his head. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses.
He left.
Okay.